Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. In this episode, we're going to have my buddy Brock from Michigan come back on and talk about, honestly, it's just going to be a BS session. It is basically, I'm going to bring up, how our seasons have been. We've both been really, really struggling this year. But, we're staying optimistic, and Brock has gotten on the board with a buck, his first bow buck. So we're going to talk about that, and then we'll just see where it goes, man. So before we do that, obviously, we got to get the partners out of the way. I'm going to run through these pretty quick. So we got Working Class Bow Hunter. As you can see, the hat right there. For those of you watching the video, Working Class is, in my opinion, the best hunting podcast out there, and we've partnered up with them for this coming year. So we have a code for you for all the new merch that they have on the website. That's hats, shirts, beanies, just a bunch of stuff, man. And that code is SEBH15. So make sure that you use that at checkout when you go to workingclassbowhunter.com and you order all the merch that they've got. And, it's really high quality stuff. I've actually got one of the shirts on right now, the Geyer buck. That is Kurt's dad. I believe is 191 inch non-typical, and Kurt is already tagged out. He shot his first 200, so congratulations to Kurt. I also want to give a quick shout out to my supervisor at work. I just thought about this. My supervisor's name is Josh. He shot a really, really nice 8-point like about 2 weeks ago, and he sent me the picture today, and it's a beautiful deer. So Josh, congratulations. I don't know if you're listening to this. If you do, sorry, don't call me for the things that I say on here, but he's a good dude, and it's well deserved. All right, some more partners. We got the BOWTIQUE. Use the code SEBHP for free shipping. BOWTIQUE, go to BOWTIQUELLC.com and look at all the wraps that he's got. Michael Stonebreaker is a wizard when it comes to wraps, and that is the guy I choose to use for all my custom arrow builds, as far as wraps and veins and whatnot. So go give him your business, and make sure you use that code SEBHP at checkout for free shipping. Next up is going to be Asio gear. I don't know what else I can really say about Asio. Asio is my camo brand of choice. Awesome company, awesome owners, just great people behind the brand, and a great product, honestly. So go to AsioGear.com. I know I think they're running some Black Friday deals right now. If not, you can use the code SEBH, and that will save you 15%. But I believe they've got some really, really good Black Friday sales going on, so make sure you check them out. Next up is going to be Summit tree stands. Obviously, my Summit has been performing flawlessly. Was talking with Jake the other day, giving some ideas about a potential new stand that I guess my input or something would sort of have like I'm not going to say an impact, but be a part of. So we'll see where that goes. But Summit is a staple in the tree stand industry. If you use a climber like I do, odds are you're using a Summit. So go to their code totally getting mixed up here. I've got both kids upstairs, and it's been a wild afternoon. But use the code SEBH15 to save 15% at summitstands.com on all accessories, all tree stands, all harnesses, climbing sticks, hang-ons, all of that. So next up is going to be Scout Tech. My Scout Tech camera, actually right now recording this, is blowing up. I've got a ton of does over at the lake. That seems to be the only thing that's really staying consistent over there. I do have a really nice 9-point that's been showing up. My daughter named Comet after Santa's reindeer. And, I found out where he's spending the majority of his time. The problem is it's going to be really, really hard to get on him. So we may end up talking about that in this episode. But my Scout Tech cams have been really helping me out this year, keeping me informed on what's going on in the woods when I'm not there, and letting me be able to plan on how I need to get in order to get on these deer. Apparently my planning has not been working though. So we'll see what I can figure out with that. But next up is going to be Ace Hardware and Social Circle. It is a local bow shop that my buddies work at, and they do amazing work. They also sell pretty much every product you need. They just started stocking up on the Beast heads. So if you're a fan of the Beast broadheads, go over there and get you up or pick you up a pack. I know they've got 100 grain and 125 grain. They also have all the new bows. They got the new Hoyts, the new lifts. I know that they are going to have the new primes soon as that drops. And so yeah, go check them out, give them your business, help support those guys. Speaking of Bows and tuning bows. Bergy Bowsmith, probably the best, I guess bow year or bow tech or whatever you want to call it, that I know. The dude is an absolute wizard when it comes to a bow. He can take any bow and tune it for you. Paper tune, bullet hole, perfect. So go to bergybowsmith.com and look at everything that he is now a dealer for. And then at checkout, use the code SEBH10 to save you 10%. And also send him your bow. He will tune it for you. And I'm actually going to be sending him my bear and getting some new strings put on it and getting it tuned as well once this deer season is over. So I'm really excited about that. I know it's going to be shooting great. Just really looking forward to that. So go check him out. Next up is going to be VPA. VPA is an American broadhead company that has a lifetime warranty. So that means if you shoot a deer and that broadhead blows through it like mine have, and it ends up in the next county and you find it and those blades are chipped and there's no way to fix it or you break it or whatever it is, for the entire life that broadhead has, as soon as you buy it, lifetime warranty. They will send you a brand new head. Sometimes they'll send you a brand new pack. So go to vparchery.com and look at over 70 different broadheads that they sell, and use the code SEBH10 at checkout to save 10%. Next up, Dialed Archery. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Dialed. Scott is an awesome dude. Everybody over there, honestly, is awesome. And they just came out a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago with the Dialed Archery Proof. It's basically the Arxos, but upgraded, which I never thought you'd be able to do. I do know there's some more stuff coming from Dialed that Scott has told me about that I can't talk about yet, but I'm very, very excited to see how everybody reacts to it. And honestly, that new proof site is badass. So go check them out. Go to dialedarchery.com. Look at everything they've got. Next up is going to be Camo Dust. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Chris last week. Or actually, yes, last week. Sorry, getting mixed up here. Really good time to get Chris on. Chris is an awesome dude. And I'm looking forward to seeing them at the World Deer Expo next year. Camo Dust is a scent control company or scent control product that I trust. It's the only one I've used where I've never actually gotten winded by a deer. Obviously, different circumstances, they can still, if you don't do it right or whatever it is, obviously, you can't fully beat a deer's nose. That is one thing I have said recently that I'm actually retracting is Camo Dust is not going to completely get rid of your scent, but it's going to diminish it so much that the deer don't think you're as close as you actually are. So that's why I trust it. It's the only dry scent on the market. They are blowing up. And like I said, they're the only one that I trust now. So go check them out. Go to camodust.com and make sure when you order some, get the 6-pack. It'll last you an entire season. And it's really worth the value. It's a little bit more expensive. It's like 70 or 80 bucks, but you get 6 different cans. And I'm telling you, it is worth it. Last but not least is Full Force Hunting Products out of Michigan. My buddy Dan Schultz, he came on and we talked about the Rompola buck, and then he reached out and was wanting to work together. So here we are. And he's got a whole line of scent products. He's got a whole line of attractants, minerals, all that stuff. And they work. I've used them. They work really well. So to go to fullforcehuntingproducts.com and check out everything that they've got and see what you like. Give it a shot. If it works for you, great. If not, I get it. So that's all the partners. That's everybody. And as you know, before I do these episodes, I always have to give the glory to God. If you don't know Jesus Christ, you really need to get to know him. Even though things may be starting to get better, in the general scope of things, we all have the battles that we fight. We all have demons that we fight every single day. I, myself included, been fighting. Honestly, the whole thing about like not killing any of the bucks that I've been after, and Trike has disappeared and all that. It, honestly, is as dumb as to some people it might sound. It's really been weighing on me a lot, and there's been a lot more just outside of hunting that's been going on that I could not get through if it wasn't for Jesus. So I'd have to always give him a shout out on this. This podcast is his. It ain't mine. I gave it over to him when I first started, and you guys see where it's come, as far as we've come, and I'm just very thankful, very, very thankful, and I will be till the day I die. So that's kind of my little preachy moment. Hopefully you guys are open to it, and you give it a shot, and he will change your life. I'm living proof of that. So cool. Well, we got all that out of the way. I know Brock is waiting on us. We are going to get into it. God knows what we're going to talk about. And if it's bad, then I'm sorry. If not, hey, another great episode with a good buddy. let's get started in the BS session with Brock Wingo. And from the Great White North, Mr. I guess you can call him Dink Killer, the Turkey Slayer himself, the Turkey Gangsta, Brock Wingo, the 1980s movie star named young 21-year-old, or hell, he ain't even 21 yet. Boy can't even drink alcohol legally, but he does it anyway. What's going on, dude? What's been happening? You've killed a buck. So let's just dive into that. You and I talked earlier today for like 2 hours. We were going over everything we were going to talk about, and we didn't get anywhere with it except for the buck. So this is going to be one of those ones where it's like kind of not questionable, but it's going to be, we literally shoot from the hip and just see what happens. So let's get the nitty gritty out of the way. What happened with this deer? Because you guys got some really good video. Somehow you were able to post it on TikTok and it didn't get taken down. Yet I post one photo of a bow being shot at a 3D target and it gets taken down. I don't understand. But what's the story?
Well, I got to start from way back in the beginning. So I started bow hunting 8 years or 9 years ago, something like that. I think it's 9. 8 if you don't count my first crossbow year. But
yeah, that's not a bow.
The first year I was using a crossbow only, and then that year I didn't kill anything. I don't think I killed anything in the archery season till I think I was like 3 years into it, just because I didn't know what I was doing back then. That was back when you could bait. I sat the exact same bait pile like every single day after school, in and out, and
been there. Still,
yeah.
Still
a few years into it, I kill a doe with my crossbow, and it went terribly. Never killed a deer with a arrow with a broadhead before, so it wasn't like gun hunting where they die immediately. And I went to track her immediately, like arrow shot. She no longer got out of my sight, and I was already out of the tree and tracking. And,
I did that earlier this year and messed it up, even though she wouldn't have died. So I know the feeling. You get so hyped up, right? And then you just jump down and you're like, oh, where's she at? And then you have to track her for like 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We've been.
I think I don't remember. I don't remember how old I was then, but
well, if it was like 9 years ago, you would have been 11. Because you're only 20. You're literally like for those who don't know, me and Brock are in this group chat where it's got all ranges of age. Like I feel like me and Thor are the middle range because we're both 29. You're the baby of the group. Me and Thor are like those angsty, dumbass teens that are just like, oh, you know everything, and we don't know anything. Then you got the old guys, JD and Andy. And Christian, actually Christian's in there in the middle with us too, right? Mm-hmm. And then JD and Andy are just, you got one guy that knows everything, one guy that I love you, JD, but shoots dinks. So I have to give him crap for that. But yeah, I mean, you were definitely the younger one. And so like I feel like, but see, the thing is with you, and we'll get back to the story, but the thing is with you is you actually have more knowledge and more, I feel like, experience and wisdom than half of us in that group do. I think you and Andy and Thor are probably the most like knowledgeable dudes when it comes down to deer hunting. So I had to give you your flowers there. I'm sorry to cut you off. You shot a deer. It went terrible. You were still a kid. I mean, what happened?
So long story short, I missed the vitals, but I clipped the bottom of the jugular. Like barely clipped it. Like put a little tiny hole in it. I found that out when I gutted her. So it was enough to where she lived probably 30 minutes, but she died quick.
Okay.
And so I went and tracked that night, immediately tracked, and then bumped a deer. I was like, I didn't know that it was bad if you bump a deer when you're tracking, but my instinct said, oh, that ain't good. I should probably just go up. So I went up to the house and went back after dark, and I'm tracking, and we looked for 3 hours that night and didn't find anything. At that point, we were just shining with flashlights looking for a white belly. And I had one of those zoom lights, and I'm zooming it in and out, and the lens falls off the end of it. And I pick up the lens, and it's covered in blood. Yeah, dude, it was
Oh
wild. I
God.
pick up the lens and it was covered in blood. And I was like, oh, well, we finally found blood. There's a start.
Yeah.
There's a big pool of blood right there. And that was where I bumped her from. So she
Mm,
ran like 30 yards and bedded up, dude. Like it would have been easy if I waited.
yeah.
But yeah, she went like 30 yards and bedded, and I bumped her from that. And we didn't find any blood after that. And we grid searched. She ran like, I don't know, probably like 600 or 700 yards she ran. And I just randomly found her in a bed in a clear cut.
That's
So
crazy.
it was wild. Like I was giving up for the day, walking back, and just was like, hey, there's a big stump. I'm gonna stand up on that stump and look over this clear cut. And I had walked past her on my way back within 5 yards of her. She was laying on the ground. So there's
Dude,
that.
it's
That
so
was,
weird how that happens. Like I always wonder how that, because I've heard that story so many times. I go in, just track them, do this, and this. I can't find them anywhere, and then on the way back, you just happen to look over to like your left or your right, and it's like, oh,
mm-hmm.
there they are.
Yeah,
It
that's
just doesn't
exactly.
make sense.
Yeah, I freaking like definition of grid searched this clear cut, walking back and forth and back and forth. And I just gave up. I was walking a logging road back, walked right by her, and then stood up on a stump and looked over, and she was laying right by where I just
Oh,
walked.
God.
But
Well, I'm
yeah,
just gonna warn you real quick. I've got two crazy ass kids upstairs right now.
mm-hmm.
I can hear them. I don't know if you can hear them, but it sounds like they're destroying the house. So if when Jessica gets home, if you hear any yelling, just ignore it. I'll edit it out. 'Cause I knew this was gonna happen too, and they weaseled this whole thing on me because I'm here by myself right now.
mm-hmm.
I knew that it was gonna be like World War III up there. I mean, hell, there could be broken stuff for all I know. I mean, it doesn't sound good. But anyway, I just had to warn you. If you hear
No,
anything, if we have to pause for a minute so I can go whoop some tail, just bear with
my
me.
dog's barking, so that makes two of us.
I can't hear it. But anyway, all right. So shot your first. So what was the first deer you shot with an actual bow?
With an actual bow was another doe,
Okay.
and this one was another not great shot that went right. She was at like 11 yards quartering to me, and I aimed not behind the shoulder, in front of the shoulder, and she ducked and turned, and it just slid her throat perfect. So she only went like 30 yards. It was like like if you took a 5-gallon bucket and poured blood all the way to her, that's how it was.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I got lucky,
I mean,
but
that's subjective though, because some people will say that's the perfect shot.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, realistically, it's not, but that's not. I don't think you and I advocate for people to go out there shooting deer in the throat.
No, I'm not going to tell you to aim for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's. But I mean, you got her. So I mean, like, so? This is what I don't understand. I was talking to Thor about this today, and we were discussing like the difference between like how I view hunting and how he views hunting. Because Thor bow hunts, right? And
Yeah.
but then when rifle season comes in, it's like y'all are like, oh, I'm gonna take the rifle out, and I can't. I'd have no problem with it, but the way I look at it is completely different. Where it's like I want it to be a challenge more
Yeah.
than it already is, because hunting is tough, as our seasons have shown.
Mhm.
And I mean, how were you like bow hunting more when after you got your first year, or were you just like, oh, this is cool, I'm gonna do this during season, but when rifle season comes along, I'm right back on it?
Back then I would always, in gun season, I always had both. And I would just be like, I always told myself, if a deer comes close, I'm gonna shoot it with the bow. But if a deer isn't close, which most of them weren't, I'm just gonna shoot it with the rifle anyway. Because
Gotcha.
in Michigan, you're legally allowed to bring both. I know some states you can't, but I mean that's actually, I don't want to get off too much of a tangent, but that's how I killed my biggest buck. Was I was pulling my bow up the tree right after I sat down, and him and a doe crossed my shooting lane far out, so I shot him with the rifle. It was wild. But what?
It literally sounds like they're just destroying the house up there.
Oh.
Whatever. I'll let Jessica deal with it. Yeah, I
But
mean, I'll admit, dude, like I haven't this season, I haven't had any moments like that where I'm like, oh, I wish I had the rifle.
Mhm.
Mainly because every deer that I've seen while in the woods has been well within bow range. But
Yeah.
it's like one thing Thor was saying, he was like, man, every single time I take the bow, it's like deer, are too far. And every time that I take the gun, it's like deer are even farther. They don't show up or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, man. I either see them and they're close or I don't, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this season, as you know, has been just insane. Like,
Yeah.
not good. Not how I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I guess you just kind of pretty much was just like, all right, well, bow hunting's cool, but I'm still going to take the gun.
Yeah.
I got you.
And after I shot that one doe with a bow, after that year, like that was the first year, that was 4 years ago, that I really dove deep into bow hunting and like did it. Like it used to be, I'd do the youth hunt and then I'd bow hunt up until gun season. I'd hunt gun season and I might go out once in muzzleloader season, but as soon as November was over, I was done for the whole year.
I
But
got
2020 was one of those first years that I hunted the entire bow season all the way through to the end of December. So that is the year that I really got into bow hunting a lot. And then the next year is when I moved downstate and had to find all new spots and went in a long run of wounding and missing and the worst stuff. So that's why this buck, even though he's little, is so special because of there is so much heartbreak. And then shortening up the rest of the story, that morning, it was November 9th of this year. Hunter and I go out, and a few days before we were talking about using a doe decoy, and he said he'd never tried it. And I was like, well, I guarantee you none of your neighbors have probably tried it, and these deer have probably never seen a decoy before. So we're going to throw it out, and they're either going to see it and take off, or it's going to work.
Yeah.
We went out, and it worked. We had, like I told you guys, we had a couple other smaller bucks earlier that morning, like a spike and then a half rack. He would have been a 6-point, but he was a really small one. I don't think I would have even killed him if he had both sides, but those two came into the decoy all fired up and stuff. And then because I don't know if you remember from the pictures, but she only had one ear on her. So they get close and they just see a big black hole in the side of the head, and I think it was bugging them because they'd get close and they'd start stomping at it. But none of them spooked. They just came in and like thought it was weird and left. But every single time they were close enough, I could have killed them.
Yeah.
So then,
well, I'm doing that where you're at too, because like from the photos you've sent me, you guys are hunting a lot of like ag with woods around it. You know, like it's a rifle hunter's paradise, I feel like.
Oh, dude, you should have heard it day. I heard 32 shots.
God, man. You sure you don't live in Wisconsin?
It seems like it, dude.
I think the most shots I've heard this year was 5, maybe 5. And that's actually a low number. I usually will hear first weekend in November, which I didn't get to hunt. I'll usually hear about 10 to 15 shots.
That's crazy.
And I'm just sitting there like, shit, which deer got killed?
Yeah, dude.
Because like I know that, you know, especially like in my Monticello spot, which we've talked a lot about, it's surrounded by hunting clubs. I mean, tons of them. So every weekend out there, it's like pow, pow, pow. And it's like,
yeah, dude.
Dang, I can't even believe these deer are alive.
Well, so, I didn't even think that many people hunted in the area I was at, and then opening day rifle season hit, and I was like, oh boy.
Oh, it'll shock you.
A lot of competition around here.
It will shock you.
Like,
I mean, it's every direction, dude. So anyway, so you got the doe decoy, you're up in the stand, you're filming. What happens?
So we saw a couple big bucks chasing way far off. Like, I think I had line distance. It was like 800 or 900 yards away. And a couple big bucks were chasing, and we knew that they probably weren't going to come over. And there's this thicket right on the neighbors. The neighbors is my buddy Hunter's family as well. But They got this really big thicket behind their house, and when you look at it when you're driving down the road, you're like, oh, I just know bucks would be in there.
Yeah.
And
I hate those properties.
yeah,
It's like, I know they're in there, but I can't go to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it is there. And about, I think it was 8 a.m., we'd been sitting for like only an hour now. We'd been in action all morning. And we see a deer step out of that thicket all by itself. And you could just tell from the body immediately. It was like 300 or 400 yards, but I was like, oh, Hunter, that's a buck. And when I glassed him with the binos, he looked a lot bigger than he actually was. But it's because he's got like such a tall little frame.
Yeah.
And his veins wrap in a little bit that it looks.
I was gonna ask you what kind of binos you're using to make him look like a lot bigger. Because I mean, I'm not trying to talk down on him, but when you texted us, I think I was in the stand that day, and you were like buck down or something, and we were bugging you about photos. You took hours to take photos. It was so annoying, and I was just like, bro, I was about to FaceTime you. I was literally about to FaceTime you. Like, Brock, show me this freaking deer, man. Because I'm thinking it's one of the ones you've been sending me photos of. And then you sent me a photo of the Forky, and I was like, oh, hey, look, first bow buck, dude. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, hell, you could have shot a little nub head, and I still would have been happy for you.
Yeah,
but
dude.
Whatever binos you got that's showing that, let me know, because I'd really like to at least get hyped like that. That sounds like a good company to me. But anyway, so you see him in the binos, and then what?
Well, I forgot to mention that we did rattle and do a grunting and doe bleat sequence, and then he stepped out of that thicket.
Okay.
So as soon as he stepped out, he was looking around, and there was one fence row in between us and him, and Hunter and I just kept saying, as soon as he steps over that fence row, he's going to see this doe, and he's coming. And the funny part is he didn't, because there's just enough elevation that he didn't get right away. But he stepped out of that fence row and he was paralleling it, so he wasn't coming at us anymore. And so Hunter just let out like not the worst sounding, but it was a loud grunt on the grunt tube, and it didn't sound great, but it was enough noise where he snapped his head up and looked. And then he grunted again, and it sounded good. And then he started coming at us, and then he got over that little bit of elevation, and he saw the doe, and he started posturing the last 100 yards he came in, which is awesome.
He was posturing for a doe?
Uh-huh. I think he was just trying to tell her, like, hey, girl.
Oh, I thought you meant he was, like, posturing like he was going to fight her. I'm like, dang, man.
No.
Sexist buck out there.
Well,
I mean, messed up.
He was coming to the buck sound, so I'm sure he saw the doe and was ready for the fight, but also like, look at me, baby. But
like, I'm bigger than you think I am. I might only be 1.5, and this rack might be not, what you're used to. I ain't no Rompola now, but hey, what's good, little mama? Like, I could definitely see him doing something like that.
Yeah, motion of the ocean type stuff. But
oh God.
This is taking a bad turn.
Oh God, that's hilarious. So he's walking in, he's posturing up, and then God, dude, I want you to, like, how we do promos every week. I need you to send me the video so I can put that in like the little promo, because honestly, dude, the video quality that you guys had in that was just, I mean, really the video quality y'all have had on the channel lately has just been great. And I know you kind of have some stuff in the works that we're not going to talk about, but I'm expecting basically some really, really high quality stuff either at the end of this year or for turkey season, definitely next year.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
I wish we could have been putting out more deer videos this fall, but it has been such a tough season. But anyway.
We'll get into that, because I know you and I both have had this conversation multiple times about it, but all right, so the buck is walking in, he's posturing up. Then what? And
he starts to circle, and so this almost bit me in the butt, but I'm a saddle guy, and I told myself, well, he's coming right towards me. So I did the sitting and leaning my knees up against the tree thing so I could be as steady as I can. And I do that, And then dude's walking at me and starts turning and going behind me. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Of course he's gonna turn and go behind me. And so you hear me in the video, I go, oh, fuck. And then he's going behind me. And in my head, I'm thinking a million ways. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna pull this off. Because I gotta stand up, put my bow over the bridge of my saddle, and then shoot him on my bad side behind me. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but he's already within 20. I gotta make it work. And then he makes another hard turn in the standing corn that was left, which in my mind, I should have assumed that he was doing this, but we faced the doe away from us on purpose. So they got to circle closer to us to go up behind her to try to breed her. And that's exactly what he was doing. He was circling behind her. He just made a bigger loop than I anticipated. And it was cool in the video. You can hear him. He grunts a couple times while he's going through the corn. And the audio is perfect. Just dude's at like 9 yards. And I just super loud pop when it hit him. And he mule kicked. And we watched him run. And within 30 yards, I could see the blood dumping out. I was like, oh, this one's going to happen. It's finally going to happen. And he's running. And then he starts to get all wobbly legged and his front end's getting low to the ground. And then he gets like a line distance on Onyx in a straight line. He made it like 200 yards. But
dang.
Yeah, he gets over there and then he gets all wobbly legged and then he just flops over. And I just, oh my God. Losing it, dude. It was
Had a Luke Bryan moment.
Oh, yeah. Is he down? But yeah, dude.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, you got him with you?
Yeah, I mean, he's all covered in peroxide because I'm doing the Euro right now. But
that's a good. Okay, so he's bigger. Nice. Good job.
Yeah. But
so he is actually bigger than the photo made him look.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good first bow buck.
Yeah, a couple of the pictures make him look better. A couple of them don't. I just hold on it so don't fall over again. But
you could be like JD and do like a over the top shot. And
yeah.
Really, yeah. God, I need to stop picking on him, man. I really do. He's gonna listen to this, be like, man, what the hell? Be like, dude, it's all in good fun.
But yeah, that's my 6-pointer.
Hell yeah. Well, we were both chasing 6s and you got one. And
yeah,
mine's gone. So
is an upgrade from my buck last year.
What buck last year?
The spike.
You shot a spike last year?
Yeah, not with a bow, but
why don't I
remember my little 3-point I showed you in the last?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah, dude. Well,
told myself
you and I talked a lot, off season this summer about like you hunting more with the bow. Cause I'm always, I don't care what someone hunts with. You know this, people listening know this, but I do like it when someone's like, I'm gonna try all season with the bow. Cause it's tougher. And like I said earlier, I like the challenge. I feel like it makes you better.
Yeah.
But I know you've been out with the smoke pulse, lately. So before we dive into like the BS side of all of this, what has happened in your season since then? Because you and I both have been struggling.
Yeah. I mean, opening day, watching the Facebook posts like a hawk for Ben's Great Outdoors is the biggest. It's a huge hunting store right near where I hunt. And so they have a huge buck pull every year. They had 179 bucks on the buck pull opening day.
Good God.
So I knew the odds of me seeing one of my shooters getting shot were pretty high. But I was hoping it didn't happen. And I'm sitting there. I probably refreshed their page like 3 or 4 times an hour. And then one time I see my freaking target buck, BIG, front and center. I'm like, oh, dude. Come on.
Sounds about right.
But that's how she goes in Michigan. You chase them around for a month and a half, and then they get shot.
Dude, that sort of leads me into like the situation I'm dealing with right now where, everyone that's listened knows Trike has been gone for like 3.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally posted on Facebook. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did it. Somebody claimed to have shot him, but I didn't get photos. But I've done the same thing every single night since he's disappeared. I have gone on every single Georgia Facebook page.
Just
refreshing. And I type in the county, I type in 6 Point, I type in broken rack. Like I do all the things. I have yet to see a photo of him. But apparently somebody killed him a couple days ago or yesterday. So I don't know how true that is. I reached out to the guy and I haven't heard back. I don't even know if he read the message. Yeah, it just says delivered. So I mean, like,
I feel like that guy probably didn't shoot him because of how long it's been on, and like we were talking about, that other big guy showed up with the timing of all that. If he did get shot and he's not just gone somewhere, earlier than yesterday or a couple days ago.
Yeah, well, because you got to think, like last year, I think he disappeared November 12th or 17th or something like that. And he was only gone for like 12 days.
Yeah.
And he came back right around Thanksgiving and he looked like death. I mean, he looked terrible. And so that's why I haven't really given up. Like if it's the first or second week of December and I still haven't seen him, then I'm I'm already pretty much convinced he's dead, but like
he's officially
dead in my mind. Like I always try to bet on the deer, but it's one of those deals where it's like, I know I've seen a couple of, speaking of deer, I've got deer photos right now. Shit, dude, just a bunch of does. So tired of seeing does. God, I cannot wait to go there and shoot one.
Better than me. Let me show you my phone real quick. You want to see the only pictures I've had lately on my Scout Tech cameras? Is these guys all day long, all the time, a whole bunch of birds.
Yeah, sounds about right. I know it's frustrating, man. My thing is like, I don't want to give up yet, but honestly, that place is really starting to, and I might lose it next year. Like it's really starting to seem like a doe property with the chance of having a buck show up. I mean, everybody always says, oh, if you've got feed out and the does come to it, the bucks will show up. And it's like, I mean, yeah, for 2 days at 2 a.m. Like you can't kill them then.
Yeah, dude.
So it doesn't matter. But we'll see. I mean, I actually do have a buck on camera that I'm convinced is Trike's son. I'm fully convinced of it because he is very wide. He's got the 4 point. He's a 4 point right now. And I don't know. Let me pause this real quick. These kids are too wild. Hold on a sec. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. Had to go wrangle the children up because they decided they wanted to tap dance while we were doing a podcast. Don't understand it. They have never. Huh?
Full dad mode there.
Oh, dude. Brock heard it. I opened the door. I was like, hey! Like, I don't mind them having fun, man, but dang. Like, you're going to come through the floor. But anyway, so what were we talking about? I just completely blacked out there for a second.
Talking about how this season's been a struggle.
Yeah. And I just showed you a bunch of
you're talking about
those on camera.
Talking about, and he's been gone.
Yeah. So, like, for those who don't know, I guess because it just happened last week after I did the Camo Dust episode, there's this 9 point that showed up for 2 days. And, I mean, he's big. Like, he's definitely the biggest deer I've had on that property, even bigger than Trike as far as points and score and everything is concerned.
He don't got that big frame.
He doesn't have a big frame. He's probably a 120-inch deer, but Trike had a 130-inch frame. So, I mean, it's sad. It's really sad. But like I was telling you, I found out from the homeowner that he saw that buck about a half mile away, and I'm sort of playing to try to draw him in game, and I don't know, dude. I mean, all the other properties, I have literally, 5 or 6 shooters on the new spot, 3 shooters at my Monticello spot. I mean, I feel like I'm wasting my time almost, like trying to get in that in something on the lake property. So
that's a great point, because that only buck you've shown me recently at the lake that you might possibly want to kill is broke off, so he makes it definitely not. So
Are you talking about that scraggly little 8-point?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he's totally not on the list. I'm not wasting a tag on that. I'd honestly give his and no, I don't mean to talk down on a deer, but I would definitely give his antlers to the dogs and be like, hey, how about it? I'm not going to shoot a deer that I would do that with. So, but yeah, man. I mean, so what's I guess your plan for the rest of the season? Because BIG got killed, all the deer and all the deer that you were after, or I guess watching in the summertime, they seem like they've just completely disappeared.
Yeah.
So you think they're going to come back for late season food or what?
I mean, I don't know if I think that, but that's my hope anyway. Is like I told you, the farmer, there's a it worked out so perfect because we were gonna ask him to leave some beans and we were gonna pay him to leave some. But as soon as Hunter and I were talking about it, he was like, "Oh yeah, my grandpa's not farming that field. Another guy's farming it." No more than an hour after he said that, we got pictures of the farmer cutting the beans on the cell cam. I was like, "Well, there goes that idea."
Yeah.
But we got lucky. There's a little erosion drainage in the field, and it drops too low to where his combine couldn't reach down into it. And there's like probably an acre, and it's a few 100 yards long strip of standing beans. And I mean, I think with these cold temps we got coming up, I'm hoping that I know the does are hitting it, but I'm hoping that like a big buck starts hitting it.
Yeah.
So I can shoot him. But I saw a decent buck there the other day. I mean, he wasn't huge, but
yeah, I mean, it just goes back to what we were saying. Like I said it to Chris on the podcast too. Like I don't understand what is. Maybe we just need to move around, But it's like I'm watching all of our buddies get on these big deer. Like Christian sent that photo of that big 8-point today that daylighted, and he wasn't there. But it's like, what the heck, man? Like, are we just not going enough? Are we not in the right spots? I don't know what else to do. So I'm just basing everything off of late season food now. And I'll put some doe and estrus out to see what they do. I put some out yesterday at the lake, and I had the really small, all right, well, I say really small, the wide little forky that showed up. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I mean, that's the only buck. And that's what's so weird. And they've done construction over there. Like there was a lot of heavy equipment, which makes me think, because I know those deer were bedding where they were building, I think it threw them off, but they've been done for like a week now. You'd think that they'd be back. So
yeah. I honestly think that's what's been going on for both of us is construction by both of our, I won't say best spots, but both of our pretty reliable spots.
Yeah, where we see the most deer.
Yeah. And because I mean, Hunter's grandpa's farm is ridiculously amazing when you scout it and walk it. Like I remember telling you and telling other friends when I scouted it for the first time in July, I said, I'm going to have to try to not kill a big buck on this piece. Yeah. And now look at me. There's not even a camera or nothing. Like,
well, dude, look at what I was saying. All summer long, I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, opening day trike is dead. I've got these deer completely trained, all this other stuff. Seen them once.
Yeah.
And completely botched it. So that's what I was telling Chris about is like, man, next year I'm just going to go into it. I don't care how confident I am in a spot. I'm just going to go into it like, look, whatever shows up, shows up. I'm going to go on a good wind. I mean, that's still what I'm doing this year at this point, I mean, on the new spot, there's Brutus, the big 6. There's the split brow buck. There's that 8-point that we just named today, and I actually cannot remember his name. Oh, Tyson, because he's got like a boxy frame.
Yeah.
And, there's another 6-point in there that's pretty big. I mean, but I can't get him to daylight. I've had one of the big bucks daylight the entire time.
Yeah, turkey foot, dude.
No. So 2 then. I had turkey foot, which I don't really consider him a big buck, man. Like he's young. He's
cool looking.
He's cool looking, yeah, but I wouldn't consider him like, top 5 on the list. But I don't know, dude. It's like everything I've tried that people, Joe Miles, Tanner Edenfield, Jay Maxwell, all these guys that will give advice, like Tim Knight talking about seeing sign. You do all that stuff and it doesn't work. And it's like, I think the key thing that we're missing is being there as much as we can.
Yeah, it's
We're just not able to do it.
that's one thing that most of them don't tell you is you need to have the time to kill huge bucks all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Lee from Seek One. That dude, now granted, comparing what we do to Seek One is like apples and oranges, you know?
Not even apples and oranges. That's like marbles to oranges or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like bananas to a steak. I mean,
Yeah,
there's just nothing related.
but
But I mean, he even says, he's like, look, you know, you have to put in so much time to get on these 200-inch deers. Like, you would think a 120 or a 130 when there's food and you know there's no other food around that they would show up. But I don't know. I cannot seem to figure out what it is other than time and having places to go. But
yeah,
even having 4 spots or even 3 spots, because I have 3 private spots to go to, it's tough, man. It's ridiculously tough to be able to feed it all 3 of them and then be like, oh, well, where am I going to go sit?
yeah.
So
Same
I
thing
don't
for
know.
me. I mean, I've got options, and I thought at the beginning of the season and our early doe hunt that we have in September, we
Mm-hmm.
got the one farm. I won't say what farm I call it because it's the name of the city it's in, but uh, we hunted for does and saw 9 bucks, 2 of which I would have absolutely shot with a bow, maybe with a gun too. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, this spot is amazing. We're gonna have a freaking time here this year. And don't get me wrong, it's still good property and it's still got deer in daylight all the time, but it's none of the properties are consistent enough at all. And they're
Yeah.
all places that you'd walk and you'd be like, man, this place looks amazing. Like you were talking with someone talking about sign, if you just hunt the best sign or the hot sign. Well, it's like if you walked Hunter's grandpa's farm, like it's almost you almost get analysis paralysis from walking it because there's
Mm-hmm.
so many rubs and so many scrapes. Like I told you, we scouted it a lot, and we just walked a fence row we haven't walked all season that his grandpa told us to look at, and it was like almost every tree that you're walking up to from a distance, and you're like, oh, that looks like a tree they'd probably rub. From 200 yards away, you can see it's
Mm-hmm.
shredded and it's like 4 foot tall, gigantic rub. And there's
Yep.
like 100 of them, but I, this year has been so weird. Like, I'm sure people might give me crap for shooting a year and a half old 6 point when I have 140s on camera and booners that I know of, but like, would you believe me if I told you that's the biggest deer I've had in bow range this year?
I mean, I've
What
had
was
one
here?
buck or well, that's not entirely true. I did have 2 very young, like milk still on their lips bucks
Mm-hmm.
show up. And I had a button head last about like literally a month ago to today show up. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's one thing, and like I think what this year is teaching us is you hear a lot of these guys that kill mature animals. Like Joe Miles is the perfect example. That dude only shoots 4.5. Honestly, I don't even think he shoots 4.5-year-old deer. I mean, he might. I'm sure he's probably done it. Or if he sees a giant 4.5-year-old buck, he's like, I'm gonna shoot it. But one thing that they have always said is if you're hunting a mature buck, a mature whitetail buck, it's totally different than going and just trying to see deer. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can put food out, like in baits or in states that you can bait, like my lake property. Dude, I could put 1 bag of corn out and I know for a fact that there's going to be does in there every single evening. It doesn't take anything to see them, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the mature animals like trike or these other 6 bucks that are on this property that
Yeah.
it's totally different. And I've never had a property where you see so many bucks and then when you go hunt it, you don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never had a property with
That's like
bucks on it.
that's like our main farm, Hunter's grandpa's. We opening week, the first 9 days of the season, there was like a genuine 4.5-year-old shooter on camera every single day at one of the spots on the farm, morning and evening. Somewhere on the farm, there'd be a mature buck in daylight, like broad daylight, not last 5 minutes, like an hour before dark.
Yeah.
And we hunted it, and we saw a spike in a 4-point fight in front of us and a couple does.
Well, so one thing I did want to talk about is like you've been telling me this whole season that your access is just questionable, basically. Like that you've seen bucks that are bedded, and no matter which direction the wind's blowing, they're able to catch you on that. So I mean, that also I feel like plays into what we're doing, because Trike was the same way. You know, he'd show up in daylight every single day for a week, and then I would go into hunt, and he wouldn't show up. And it's like somehow they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, you would think after all the podcasts we've listened to, the people we've talked to, the experience that we've had, I mean, it almost seems like we're making it too complicated.
Mhm.
like maybe just go in and hunt, you know? If the wind is good, just go in and hunt and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but like my thing is talking to people up here, everyone I know has been having a rough year. Like everybody I talk to has been having a rough year. And like social media fools you, because I think I've seen more truly giant, like 150 plus deer shot in Michigan. I think I've seen more than I've ever seen this year. But everybody that I personally know that I talked to throughout the years, like, yeah, man, this year has sucked. And I mean, I think it's probably just the weather, but it's also weird because I say it's just the weather and people say it's just the weather making a move at night. Then it's like, I ain't getting them on camera at night either, though. So how does that work?
Yeah, that has definitely been, like, I will say this year, and for some reason I feel like at the beginning of the season I had a feeling this was going to happen, because it just seemed too good to be true. You know, like having really big deer on camera in the summertime, having trike be so consistent, having the does be so consistent. It's like there's been times where I will have food out, and here, if you feed, like, you're gonna have deer on camera. I could put food in my yard and put a camera up, and I guarantee you a deer is going to come to it. The dogs are going to be barking all night, but a deer is going to come to it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this year, that's just not the case. And I don't know if they're evolving. I said this on the Camo Dust episode, I think. I don't know if they're evolving and they're like, oh, that means danger, and they just don't go to it, or something else has changed. Because, like, you know, at this point in the season, one of us would have had a really good buck in front of us. By this time, none of us have had that. I mean, some of it, like, you know, Christian killed his 8-point early in the year, and
that was his first bow buck too, right?
Yeah.
First year ever, man. First buck.
No, he killed a doe, I think, last year with his bow. But as far as his buck, I think that was his first buck too. But yeah, man, like, you know, Andy has had deer in front of him. I don't think he's had any giants. Thor has had some good deer in front of him, but no, like, mature bucks. I've had, you know, I had trike in front of me once, and then he just went full nocturnal pretty much.
I mean, I almost killed a real good one too.
Yeah, it's like we're getting them in front of us one time, but none of us have been able to capitalize on it.
I just chalked that up to the time thing, like we were saying.
Yeah.
If I was able to hunt even 3-4 times a week instead of 1 to maybe 3 times, which 3 times in a week is a rarity, but
yeah,
if I could hunt 3-4 days a week, I mean, it might have happened by now. Like our opening only had 1 day.
Yeah.
So
it's like, you know, going back, and I hate to keep going back to trike, but he has been the most consistent buck as far as daylight's concerned. Opening week, if I would have been able to sit every night, he would have died. Like, there's no doubt in my mind he would have shown up and I would have shot him. So I think you're right. I think the timing thing is, you know, extremely important. And like, going back to what you were saying about social media, you know, I feel like this comes up almost every episode, but it's like social media definitely fools you, you know, and I unfortunately, you know, being, you know, having the podcast and stuff, I'm on there a lot because I'm trying to get updates on stuff and trying to see, you know, oh, this local guy just killed this 180 80-inch buck. Let's get him on the podcast and talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, in the process of doing that, you see all these other giant bucks or really good bucks that are getting killed. Hell, there was a dude down here that killed a 6-point that made Trike look like a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, literally, like this deer was gigantic. Like I'm talking 160-inch 6-point. And it's just, it messes with you. It really, really messes with you. And then you get, you or me or whoever gets photos overnight of some big deer, or you get like one daylight photo of a buck and you're like,
yeah,
what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's been one of those years where I feel like we've learned a lot, but when we try to put what we've learned into practice, the deer aren't cooperating.
Well, yeah, dude. That night that I almost killed that big buck. I mean, dude, he was a solid deer. Every time I think about it, I'm like, he's actually a pretty huge buck.
Yeah.
But that night that we hunted him and almost killed him, this was like peak rut. It was pre-rut. It was the end of October. The whole week before that, there's pictures of not mature bucks, but big bucks, like big 2 and 3-year-olds, running the edge in between the tree line and the standing corn. Every night they were running it. They were chasing does, and they were in there. And then we go hunt it, and we don't even have a doe or a fawn run that edge. It's like every single time I'm like, oh, okay, it seems like the deer are doing this. Not only do they not do that, but they do like the total opposite. And so this big buck comes behind us, and which is fine. Our wind was good for it, for them to come from the bedding that I thought they were going to come from and then come to us. The wind was right in our face. But because we called at him, this little 6-point, about the size of the one that I killed, loops behind us like 30 or 40 yards and then wins us. And he runs, and then all 40 of the turkeys in the woods run. And then his doe runs, and then the big boy runs away. And we're like, well, might as well just go home now. But,
yeah,
I mean, that's the only time that I've had an opportunity where, like, it was about to happen with a good deer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're just bitching and moaning on this podcast about our seasons. But, I mean, like, it's one of those things, it's frustrating because you spend all season or all off season scouting, planning, like hell, I'm feeding all year. That's not easy on the wallet. Thank God for getting a raise recently, or that would have been much tougher. But it's like, dude, you spend all this time, and I was talking to Thor about this. It's like you spend all this time and you make all these plans, and then it's like the deer are just like, nah. No, we're not going to show up that day, even though we've been showing up every single day. And I feel like one thing I haven't been able to put into practice is, and somebody said this to me, I think it was a while back, where the first time that a buck daylights, during season, you need to go the next day because odds are he's going to do it again. Now, how true that is, I think it depends on the time of year. If you've got food, pretty likely. If it's the rut and there's a hot doe in there, very likely. But I just don't know. I know they call it hunting and not killing, but it's like, kind of want to do a little bit of the killing. It's been 2 years now since I've killed a deer or a buck. It's annoying. It's really annoying. But I don't know, man. It's just.
I will say, all the bitching and moaning aside, I've had a lot of fun this year.
Oh, yeah.
All these new farms. Because, I mean, last year I had like 13 acres of total access. And this year I have hundreds.
Yeah.
And it's been very fun learning them. And I shot my first archery buck. I mean, that I've shot a big deer. I mean, I might have been more amped up shooting this 6-point than I was when I shot a 7.5-year-old buck. It's just, dude, like we said, it was 9 years of frustration. And last year, I'm not bragging about wounding deer at all. I hate that it happened to me, but it is what it is. It's bow hunting. I mean, I wounded like 3 deer last year.
Yeah.
And it sucked, dude. And all that emotion came out right there. And it was the coolest thing ever. So, like, I tried not to sound too ungrateful because I am having a great year.
Yeah.
But also having, as far as like big deer sightings and getting close to shooting deer. I mean, I am having one of the worst years. One of the worst, if not the worst, I've ever had. It's been crazy, not good.
Well, maybe, that's one good way to look at it, because like I just said it, I've never had a property where there's 6 bucks that I would shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not daylighting, but they're there. I mean, I was blown away because, my buddy Josh shot a 120s. I think it was a 121 over there earlier this year, and then he was able to help me get permission over there. And he told me, it's like, dude, there's some good deer in there.
Yeah.
So I pulled the card and I see turkey foot in like this little 10 point, or I say little, he's probably like 110 inch 10 point. Really good deer next year for sure. But I was like, man, I don't know. I've got these deer in Monticello. I've got, trike still potentially. And then all it took was putting a lot of food out, and these bucks consistently now overnight will show up. I just have to figure out how to get them in daylight. And it's overwhelming at times. It's a little deceiving too, because, when you're hunting vampires, you can't be there when vampires are out there.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? So,
I mean, you could, but.
Well, I'm not CJ Alexander, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, man, I don't know. It has been a good year. It's been a good learning experience. Aside from cameras getting stolen and potentially target bucks getting killed, but
yeah.
So I mean, like, all right. So I guess we'll just see what happens with our deer season. We're probably going to do an end of season episode in like January or something after your wedding, when you're a married man and you sell your soul. But yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the turkey guiding, because I know that we were going to discuss that. What is the turkey season looking like for you guys?
I mean, I know all my best spots are going to be cornfields this spring instead of beans, so that's good. That's always good when there's corn on the ground for them. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of too early to tell, but I am looking forward to it. Like, we were hunting the one farm that we know of that there's a booner nearby. We were hunting there that one morning, and it was a beautiful morning. We didn't see any deer at all, mind you, but it was a beautiful morning, and the sunrise was impeccable, and it's coming up over the trees. And then in the next woodlot over, we just hear, cow. And I was like, oh, dude. And, dude, he just kept hammering. And I was looking at Hunter, because Hunter's the one that got me into guiding. He has his own outfitter. And I was looking at him. I was like, dude, I forgot it was November there for a second. That fired me up. So, yeah, dude. I mean,
is y'all's availability like still pretty open, or are y'all starting to sort of
I think
close up?
I think Hunter's done booking, but I'd like to take another group or two. Probably more.
Is he going to be traveling back and forth now that he moved?
No, he's going to be here for the whole turkey season. That was part of his deal with working there.
I gotcha. So are you going to be hunting more with a bow now? Is really the question. Or are you kind of like at the point where you're like, look, I got my first bow buck. I'm done. I just want to kill something, get more meat in the freezer. Because that is one thing you and I have definitely talked about, is like, I've killed one deer. You've killed, what, 1 or 2? I mean,
this year?
Huh? Yeah, this year.
Just the one, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we need to step it up.
Yeah.
Because deer meat is going to become illegal here soon, in the next probably few weeks for you and a couple months for me. I mean, what's the plan? Like, what are you going to be doing?
I really, really, really want to kill another deer with the bow. I really do. So the thing in Michigan is I can hunt with my muzzleloader until, I don't remember the exact date. I think the 16th of December is the last day for muzzleloader. So I'm going to be hunting with that until then, just in case I see a big buck at 150 yards. But then after that, you technically can gun hunt all the way through the rest of December for does, but for bucks, it has to be archery, which is the stupidest rule. Like, how many people are out there with a 450 Bushmaster shooting their target buck right before Christmas when they're supposed to be does, and they just say, oh, I shot it with a bow. Like,
yeah, I mean,
but we won't.
I don't know if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
We won't dive down the regulations rabbit hole. But yeah, I mean, so call me stupid if you want, some people, but the rest of December when I could use a bow, I mean, I could use a gun for does. I'm going to be using a bow the rest of the season because I really want another deer with the bow this year.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I feel like bow hunting's cooler, but that's just me. So what?
It's more rewarding for sure.
It definitely is. It definitely is. What broadhead are you shooting right now?
G5 dead meat.
Is that the only broadhead you're going to be using?
I was kind of thinking about shooting one with my Magnus stingers with the bleeders so I can compare, but I don't know. I kind of got a lot of confidence in the dead meat now after shooting my buck.
Yeah. I mean, when it's definitely one thing when you shoot him and you can see the blood spraying out and you're like, oh, he's done. I mean, there's no comparison to that. And that again is like, look, I love guns, right? I do. But I just don't get the satisfaction out of it.
Yeah.
Bow. And you know, I mean, I've gone shit, my first bow season. I went a whole season seeing the biggest deer of my life, missing a doe, just completely messing it up. And I think since then, every year I've been able to get a deer on the ground with a bow, which people, you know, can't say that. But I don't know, man. I'm just really itching to get one of those mature bucks on the ground with a bow. It's just frustrating. I would never do it, but I get why CJ did what he did.
Yeah,
I get it because there's been so many times I'll wake up in the morning and I'm like, God, dude, they're in there right now. It'd be so easy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
It is what it is, though.
People will hear that and be like, oh, he's, you know, agreeing with poachers. Nah, dude. I absolutely despise poachers. But that temptation is there. You know, when you're driving down the road and you see bucks in the field.
I won't say I sympathize with them, but I can see why they do it. I mean,
I can get it. If you have no moral compass and you're like, dude, I just want to kill a big buck.
And that's it.
I get it.
You have any idea how many big deer we've seen when I was coyote hunting at night with night vision? I mean,
yeah,
you see them everywhere. You can.
Well, I mean, look at what happened to my buddy Hunter, dude, just a couple days ago. He was out putting food there, and he had does come walking up to him at 3 feet, 3 feet in the middle of the night. And it's like, I understand, you know, yes, it's easier, but taking the easy route, I mean, that's just never, in my opinion, the way to go.
Yeah.
So what's been bothering you, man? What's been going on in the hunting industry or community that's got you worked up? There's always something. I mean, we got new bows out. Obviously the CJ Alexander thing is still going on. I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, his trial date is in like a week or two. So we're gonna get to see what happens with that. But I mean, what's been on your mind? Like you open Facebook up and you see something. What's been going on with that? Or are you content with it? Are you happy with where things at?
This year I've been trying to stay off. I mean, I haven't done a good job. I've been on social media a lot. Like I told you, opening day, I was refreshing Facebook a lot, but that was just kind of more for like if one of my target bucks got shot, I wanted to know about it. So I'm not chasing a ghost. But I mean, I have really no quarrels. It's just that if you look at it too much when you're in a stage like we're in right now, when things aren't panning out and you start thinking to yourself, oh, they shot a big buck. Why can't I? Or like you see a little kid shot a huge buck and you're like, oh, he's just a lucky little kid. Like that's not a good headspace to be in.
No, not at all.
I try to stay off it. I know I told you last week I've been listening to, because we both drive around for work, so we're listening to music or podcasts all the time. I've been listening to much less hunting podcasts, more of like Just Yours and some other ones like the Hunter podcast because they're entertaining. But other than that, I'm not listening to any anymore and trying to apply it because it never works. I mean, they tell you, like there's a clip of the Hunter podcast. He goes, if you're finding a hot sign, you're in them. Or like, if you're finding a lot of buck sign, you're in them. And I'm like, okay, I am, and I'm not. So you probably shouldn't be saying that. And I won't even say they probably shouldn't be saying that. It's just, I'm just not really listening to it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and that's been a big gripe with me, which was a huge push for why I started this. Because like most of the podcasts you listen to, and I love them. You know, obviously working with Working Class Bow Hunter, that's more of an entertaining hunting podcast, but they do have people on that talk about like tactics and what they see and how they kill these deer and all that. But you know, I listen to the Hunter podcast too, and a lot of the stuff they say, it's like, dude, yeah, in the Midwest that can work, but like down here in Georgia, you know, perfect example. People are like, oh, if you go out there and you rattle or you hit a grunt call or whatever, right? If that buck's anywhere near you, he's gonna hear it. He's gonna come running in, dude. I have rattled and grunted and doe bleeded my ass off this year. And the only thing I have to show for it is one doe that I killed that I just was messing around and was like, let me just hit her with that quick little meh. And she came running down and just sent it. It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like there needs to be a change where you've got, you know, podcasts like this one, or there used to be one. I don't know if they still do it, but it was called Georgia Afield. And it was this guy, Brian Grossman, who was one of the most knowledgeable hunters I knew, but he would sit there and tell you like, okay, this week on public land or this week on my private land spot or whatever, this is what I saw. This is what I did. Here's what I think, you know, like they were giving like updates every week of what tactics they were using. And I honestly think the best one for the South would be like Southern Outdoorsman. Those guys, their stuff works. The problem is most of their stuff is public land. And like I haven't hunted any public land this year. Not proud to say that, but when you have 6 shooter bucks, you kind of skip that. So, yeah. So I don't know, dude. I mean, it's the same thing though. Like that new spot I've got. When I scouted it the first time with Josh, dude, there was rubs everywhere. Rubs, scrapes. You could see the trails, and I was like, dude, it's gonna happen. And I've had one daylight. One for sure shooter buck daylight. And it's like they're in here, but it's nighttime. It's not what people think it is. So I don't know, man. I mean, you know, people take that as what they want. And I really it kind of sucks because I feel like this episode I've just been bitching the whole time, but I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off.
Yeah, dude.
This season's really been rough, and add in everything else that's been going on, like I don't know. It's for those listening, I'm sorry if this is a depressing episode, but I'm getting it all out. So I don't know, Brock. It's one of those deals, man. But look, I feel like I've kept you long enough. Jessica's still not left the gym. I don't understand what's going on. Hopefully one of those gym bros didn't pick her up. I hate to have to go there with my 9. Anyway, nah, I'm happy for her. I'm glad she's doing it. But yeah, man. So like, I guess before we sign off of here, what can we expect to see from the chase? Is there any big news you want to give? I guess to the listeners and any sort of plugs that you want to do before we get off of here?
I think my username for Instagram, I'll just plug the socials real quick. The username for Instagram and the handle for YouTube are the same. It's the Chase Productions with a period in between the words. So the period Chase period Productions.
Got it.
A little bit easier to remember and rolls off the tongue a little bit better than the old usernames. And the TikTok is the old handle, I believe, the _Chase 810.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But I know on the YouTube, I was talking to Hunter about this recently, actually, because I told a bunch of people that the video will probably be out in 2 weeks right after I shot him. And it's been 2 weeks and it still hasn't been out. I was talking to him just the other day, and he said that he will be done editing it within the next couple weeks because he'll be taking that new job and he'll have a bunch of fancy editing stuff that he'll get to use. So
nice.
I told a lot of people it's probably going to be the best video you've ever seen over a 1.5-year-old old buck in a while. Probably going to be one of the best videos of a 6-point getting shot, a little 6-point. So
I mean, but see, that's the most relatable thing. You know, like a lot of guys will shoot a deer like that because they just want to shoot one. So there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, to get back to the rough season part, I mean, I shot him in I think that was my 6th sit of the year. That's the only amount of times I'd hunted. So, but yeah, that video is going to be coming to the YouTube soon. We put out reels and shorts as much as we can. We can't post old footage a million times because then it gets redundant and annoying. But
yeah, I've ran into that quite a bit. I mean, the TikTok thing is kind of not really died, but it's sort of tough when I barely have time to do this and go hunt. Like once deer season's over, there will probably be more stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, time management, dude, that's the toughest thing, I feel like. And we've talked about it a lot. I don't know, man. Growing up sucks. Growing up really sucks. But it's all good, man. Well, if it doesn't happen this season, it'll happen next season or the season after that or in 10 years again. Who knows? But anyway, dude, all that depressing shit out of the way. I'm sorry. I feel like this was a therapy session for both of us. It's like sitting here face to face crying about
letting it all
a
out.
big deer. But there's bigger things that it could be worse. That's the way I always look at it. And it's on God's timing, not ours. And who knows, man? Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, you and I could go out this weekend and old Saggyback could show back up or whatever big buck you were after. Trike could show back up tonight. I mean, it can change in an instant, So for those listening, if you're having a rough season too, sorry, you can message me and complain about it all you want. I'll do it with you. Brock will do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I guess if you don't have anything else, we can wrap it up.
Yep. I think that's about all.
All right, cool. Well, buddy, thank you for coming on. And thanks for being my shrink. Really needed it.
Yeah, dude, no problem. Anytime.
And yeah, we'll do a end of season update probably late January.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.